Hello and welcome to Wisdom 101. My guest today is DJ Taz Rashid. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Nate. It's good to be here.
All right. DJ Taz Rashid is a high vibrational DJ, music producer, world traveler, and he's an entrepreneur as well. So I wanted to ask him some questions, and we have a few questions from the internet from a few other people as well. So I guess I'd like to start with your personal story.
Okay.
So how did it all start?
Where do you want to begin, exactly?
I guess, yeah, we could skip ahead maybe the first few years. So
Sure.
I understand one word you use is bro gone conscious.
Yeah.
And I like that. And it's like, as I understand, a transformation from just one way of seeing the world. And was there a moment? Was there a progressive realization?
Sure.
How did you get to be involved with this progressive spiritual movement? And what was the personal transformation like?
Sure. That's great. That's a good place to start. The reason I chose those words, bro gone conscious, and that's something I've been kind of working with personally when I looked at my journey, is I bought into this dream, this like American dream that after I came to America, I thought that that's what I had to be and aspire to as I grew up and graduated from college, and that was, wearing suits, earning money, having cars, a lot of the material things that I fell into. And there's nothing wrong with that, but as pursuing that world, I saw that I was getting these things, but I wasn't feeling fulfilled. I felt like I was chasing the dollar rather than my passions. And a lot of those passions were always like on the sideline. It's like a hobby. You can just do that, but not as like a career path. And so I was partying a lot, going out, just like the city life, and then just those moments of feeling unfulfilled. The hangovers, just like, it was just like a bad hangover over an extended period of time, and I had good times. It's not like it was just bad but I think like on a subtle level, there was a lot of depression going on, but I wasn't like necessarily expressing it. I wasn't like, oh my God, I'm so depressed, but I just remember moments when I'd be partying, and there'd be like moments in the night even where I'm just looking around at everything, like, I'm, looking at myself, almost like in a director's. It was like a third-person experience while I was still in that state, being like, oh my God, I feel like a freaking loser or something like that. Like, there was these like complete moments of self-doubt, self-worth, looking at everything like, what am I actually doing right now? I don't feel good. And I had those more and more. And so I started exploring meditation. I wasn't too familiar with the world, but I started exploring meditation, started reading some books, and that started getting my interest in the world. But I didn't realize that there was a whole mindful like scene been going on in America. I felt like there was only a handful of people, but more I scratched the surface, like it opened up. So that's how I kind of got into it. It was a feeling of unfulfillment with the current status. I didn't know exactly what I had to do, but I knew something had to change. And that's what got me to start asking questions. And with those questions, I started attracting situations and people into my life that would start guiding, my path.
Yeah.
And that path is still obviously, opening up to many different doors.
Yeah.
Hopefully that kind of shows a little bit.
Yeah. What would you say, what were the biggest influences? Was there a community, a group, a person, a teacher, a book?
I found this book called Celestine Prophecy in 2006, and it literally was one of those books that fell out of the shelf you hear about. It fell out of a bookshelf in Borders bookstore. Yeah, it was just like, I was just like, whoa, my apartment like burned down, and I was buying some books because all this stuff burned down. This is like right after college, and it was one of those books, and I bought it, and I remember reading it, and all the information about the church and spiritualism that was in there, I thought it was very intriguing, but I didn't fully understand it. Yeah. So I put it back on the shelf after I read it, didn't really comprehend, but it got some wheels turning. And then I discovered the book, Four Agreements and the Secret, around like 2007, 8. And I started really looking at myself, like the Four Agreements, like, not taking things personally, not making assumptions, like, being impeccable with my word, meaning like my decisions and what I'm choosing to be. So these books were key influencers as far as like knowledge in the beginning. And then when I met my now wife, back then girlfriend, like around 2008, we started our conversation with like Deepak Chopra and these kinds of things. And she just got on her path as well a little bit before me. So she had all this knowledge she had attained, and so we started sharing together. So my wife was a big part of that, and then she introduced me to a lot of her teachers, and then definitely in the Chicago community, there's a place called the Bodhi Spiritual Center that I was close to. It's a metaphysical community, kind of like Michael Bernard Beckwith's Agape Church, many people may have heard of. Yeah. And I was also getting involved with this phenomenon called the Oneness University and the Oneness Phenomenon. And to me, and I've done a lot of different schools and modalities, still to this day, like the teachings in that school are very clear. They did it, that's evolved as well, the school and its progression. But from the get-go, I remember it being very clear, and it was always about awareness teachings, with any background. So it didn't matter what background I came from or whoever came from. I was able to tap into it was about developing a deeper relationship with, whether it's your divine or God or whoever that is, like what is that? And really taking a look at what that relationship even is, because we can consciously create a connection with God, or we will unconsciously create one. So it's like really taking a look at that relationship, and that helped me clear so much baggage and unconscious behaviors that I was having that resulted from years of different things around my parents, past relationships, and then the relationship with the divine. So life is a relationship. That's one of the big teachings from the Oneness University. So everything we have in our life, they're all relationships from as we were a little kid. Yeah. So it was about re-looking at these relationships, and even to inanimate objects, things like money and things. We have relationships to them. So really taking a look at re-looking at relationships, and that was a big game changer, in my experience. I was around 2009, 10, and onward.
Yeah. And was it like a workshop environment? How were those teachings delivered?
In the beginning, it was workshop environment, 2-3 day, but it was very experiential. It wasn't just like teachings. There was a lot of experiencing, group guided meditations, like releasing, things around. And I feel like with that work, there's definitely like, an energy comes, a lot of times with different kinds of modalities and work. That work, the strong intention around that work is, there's this thing called Sankalpa, which is like a strong intention. So the founders of that work from India, they hold the intention of personal awakening, and so that energy I feel like is laced within the work. So it's not just like teachings, it's like they're mission driven to get people to wake up to their inner truth. And so I feel like that was different than a lot of other workshops I've ever attended, was the experiential part. So it became your personal wisdom rather than here's a great idea. Read this book. Say, hey, experience this, and now it's your experience.
Yeah. What was there one standout experience where you had a shift in awareness or an identity, or like you said, relationship with divinity or otherwise?
Yeah, I think it was probably one of my first weekend experience. There's a lot of them, it's never just like one thing. It's just like it builds, and then you have moments of ahas. I think one of them, just that comes to my mind, was probably one of the first weekends I did the Oneness Blessing weekend. It was like a 2 to 3 day thing, and I just felt lighter afterwards. It felt like I just let go of some baggage I was carrying around, my relationship to my mom, to my dad, to some of my past, relationships, like personal relationships with girlfriends. And these are things I just realized, oh my God, I've been holding on to these things. And it was kind of wow, this forgiveness work involved that I didn't know about, and how powerful that truly can be. Like pure forgiveness, not like conditional forgiveness. And it's a lot of self-work. So that was probably 2009 or 10, something like that. And that just started a whole new path. And then it was relationships to things like money and work and our desires and passions. These were moments, and they're still happening.
Sure. Yeah. And I wanted to talk about your music. I mean, you have a lot of different interests and so forth. Music seems to be kind of like the middle, the axle maybe of a lot of these projects that you're working on.
Yeah.
Doing work, you're working with some of the top yoga teachers in the world, traveling around to the festivals. I'm really jealous because
it's a lot of work. It's
good. I'm sure from your perspective, it's a totally different story. But just looking at it from the outside, it just looks like a dream come true. You're traveling to these exotic places, meeting so many amazing people, and I'm sure there's so much behind the scenes that goes into it.
The Instagram pictures doesn't just do it justice. It looks really pretty with the beach and with the mountains, but there's a lot of effort involved.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of grace and there's a lot of synchronicity, but I think a lot of people think, oh, just go with the flow. It's like, yeah, you go with the flow, and the universe may be like 98% part of the equation plus your intention, but that maybe 1% of effort has to be like everything you can do. Like, that could be like hours of work, or like that's effort on our part. The universe may show us the doorway, but that walking through it, it may be a lot tougher than it seems. It could be easy, but I personally feel like effort is a very important part.
Right.
And when I say effort, doesn't mean that it has to be difficult.
Right.
It means that we have to show up, and that showing up is like so important.
Right.
To showing up to what you want to be. So you were saying just like. Working with these people in music,
Well, I mean, it seems like, I think that's, like you're saying, the gap. And it's like you have this passion, everybody's got their passion, but it's so challenging to really go out there and do it, and it can be deceptive, because you can say, like, oh, it looks like it's so easy for them, why is it so hard for me? So what does it require to really follow your passion and to end up following your dream like that?
Yeah, it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. Maybe for some people, but from my personal experience, there's no such thing as this overnight stuff. Like every one of the greats you can see that has stuck around, and they've all built up. You have to look. It's really nice to look at people that we admire and their stories, because I think the way it happens is by taking the first step. If you're passionate about something, you can't just sit and dream and wishing for it. And law of attraction, it's going to come to me. It's like you got to take the first step, whatever it is. For me, for example, like I realized, like, okay, I want to go into music. This is like 2011 that I left the corporate world, and I was like, wasn't really sure how. Like, I wrote down my mission. My mission is to awaken people with music and let them realize that they're divine beings on this earth, living creative, passionate lifestyle, and I feel like that's true for every human being, that we all have a creative lifestyle, and it just comes through in different ways. And when I saw that for myself, I just took one step at a time. If I was interested in something, I'd go find somebody in the community that I would admire, and be like, hey, can I talk to you about this? Or like, hey, do you have any advice? And it was just those conversations that got the idea becoming a reality. So it wasn't like you're necessarily even chasing your dream. You're just kind of like being your dream from the get-go. You're like, I am this, like, for me it was like a mindful DJ, showing up at these events, and I just held that energy and I just showed up to it. So like whatever opportunity I either saw or people were inviting me to do, I was just like, great, let's make it happen. Not even thinking about money at that point. It wasn't like about the cash. It was about the passion. And then finally, like, money just started kind of like naturally happening with it. It was kind of like, oh, how much do you charge, and this and that, So that's not what so I didn't start with that. I started with what I really wanted to hold energetically, and then things evolve. Then this universe starts seeing like, oh, this guy's showing up. Let me connect with him with this person. Let me connect her with this situation, and then like it can happen. Then it can start happening quickly. It can be an exponential process. But we really have to show up and have a clear understanding of what our personal sankalpa or intention is. Hopefully that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
well put. I think a lot of people, there's a lot of yoga teachers out there, Tai Chi instructors, dance instructors, people who are sharing their passion, and music is a big part of that.
Yeah.
Music can set the mood, music can touch people in ways that language can't, and that's something that you're providing for people. It's something that's very important, as a teacher, to try to provide the environment for their students. So what are some ways, perhaps, one question from Facebook was, how do you find music? How do you curate it? And I understand you actually do that as for people as well. How does that work?
So folks that don't know, what I specialize in, I create music for meditation, yoga, and now I'm starting to create music for dance as well, more and more. And it feels really good. It feels like I'm on a good path there. And I teach a workshop at a lot of these festivals, just like the question you're asking, like where do I find it? How do I sequence music? So I teach yoga teachers, like fitness facilitators. I have a workshop called My Best Playlist. Okay. So I teach them how I find music. So I'm always listening. I teach, one of the things in my workshop I teach is to have like a musical consciousness on us at all times, because if you realize or not, like music is all around us in our life. You know, as long as you have audible skills, music is all around us, in the mall, at the movies, on TV, on our phone. Like, I use things like Shazam and SoundHound to I hear a song, I'm like, what is that? So we have to have the intention that I'm going to be inspired by music in situations. So, and how can we utilize our surroundings to work with our craft? So whether that's Tai Chi or yoga or meditation, so you hear something, you're like, oh my God, this would be great in a power vinyasa sequence. Okay. Or this would be great in like restorative yoga class. Whatever it is that they're doing, it's like you know what your craft is, and then you start bringing in the forces. Yeah. You know, so whatever. So I make notes. I write down in my phone. I'm Shazamming, writing ideas down. So it's really being co-created with that. And then of course there's websites, things like Bandcamp, SoundCloud. I'm in the process of developing a website called My Best Playlist, where I'm going to provide Spotify playlists and SoundCloud playlists that I've curated and found that has, like, in my opinion, like the best kind of playlists in this like mindful scene that people can like put, and they'll be using what they're already using, things like SoundCloud, things like Yogi Tunes, which is like a Spotify for yoga music and mindful music, things like that. So I'm gonna help, and that in the process of helping musicians as well, and the teachers are finding value having someone already curated like playlists and things like that.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of yoga teachers, they want to give music to their students, but technology scares them. Mm-hmm. You know, the idea of figuring out how to get an app, how to download stuff, all that is really challenging. And I like how you're making it easy. Like, you can just simply follow you do the curation, you say, here's my meditation music, here's my Tai Chi music, here's my dance music. So is that kind of solving that problem for people? Is that one of the ideas of what you're doing?
That's essentially the mission of the website, is to provide these playlists. So like, say a Tai Chi teacher can go in there and find meditative music or music for Qigong. So there will be curated playlists for all these. And we will use formats that they're currently already using, things like Spotify, SoundCloud, Yogi Tunes. So they can just go in there and use, so they don't have to come up with a whole another system. Be like, oh my gosh, I have to come up with another system. Right. And the great thing about things like Spotify or SoundCloud, Mixcloud, we can put whole mixes on there. So our intention is to find these good mixes that are already out there and give them to people so they can like favorite them, have them saved, and just play them in their class. Yeah. You know. And so it's a work in progress, but that is the intention of it. And the goal is to have the website up and running by the summertime. So there will be like a free version, and there will be like a subscription version, and they get it's very affordable. We're making it easy for people to use.
That's fantastic. Because I'm a teacher as well, and to just have a playlist where okay, it's going to start softly, then it's going to build a little bit, and then it's going to end at the end of the hour with some nice shavasana. Yeah. You don't have to worry about fiddling with it. Then you can just focus on your students, focus on your delivery. I think it's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I think something that's important, like sometimes teachers, and maybe you've done this, but sometimes teachers will just be like, this is a mix, I'll just play it in their class, and they'll go. Yeah. I think it's a good idea just to like screen it so you know what's coming, because like you said, music's a very important part. It can completely change the flow of a class, So it's good to hear what the mix kind of does energetically throughout, because then you can actually the teacher can really work with it, so they're not super surprised, oh my God, the music picked up, Like if it was a live mix that I created in a class, and I posted that. Something may have happened in the class where I changed the energy and it went up or something.
Right.
So it's good for teachers to like listen to mixes to know whether it's a playlist or anything, rather than blindly just pressing play.
Sure.
Because you can do that, but I don't recommend it for any, even if it's yoga or whatever, just go through it, like, you just scrub through it.
Yeah.
It'll help them.
But I imagine, like, once they get familiar with it, they know, like, okay, this mix is good for my vinyasa
Yeah.
flow. This mix is good for my, restorative, and like you said, get familiar with their tools. But sounds good.
Yeah.
And tell me about, I know you spent all day, and lately you're the new co-executive producer of Karma Warriors TV.
Yeah.
This sounds really intriguing. Tell me about that.
So just a few months ago, I believe it was around December, January. My friend Vanessa, she reached out to me, and she's friends with a few people in this TV world, and they had reached out to her to create this show, and she reached out to me, and the show revolves around the mindful movement, but more on the reality TV elements. So we're taking an intention of like mindful reality show, and rather than like so much drama that we see in a lot of the reality TV that's out there, create a TV show that has the elements of travel, the elements of wanderlust, mindful behavior, but also show transformation, that process of what's available in groups of people. So we're going to take groups of like 6 to 8 people to different parts of the world, and while they have gone through their own transformation process or still in that process, we want to show that. We want to show what they've gone through, what they're dealing with still. So to show the transformation journey, at the same time giving back to whatever community we are reaching out to. So for example, our first location that we're going to Tulum, Mexico, and we're going to be working closely with an orphanage there. So that process of service, seva, selfless service, what it takes, because a lot of times when we're giving back, the universe really gives us a lot more than we can anticipate. So it's like, what is possible there? So we're still in the production elements of it. It's very exciting, but it's getting close. We're going to be going in June and doing our first filming. For me, this is a new world. I'm not from the TV Hollywood kind of world, but I'm very blessed to be a part of it, because the reason I said yes, and I'll share this, the reason I said yes to some sort of a TV show like this, like, why would I do that? I'm a musician, I'm a DJ, I travel playing music at mindful festivals. One of my intentions and missions, when people ask me, like, hey, if you had all the money in the world, money wasn't an issue, you could just do whatever you wanted, what would you do? I had an answer for them always. Like, I just knew what I wanted. And that answer is traveling around the world, playing music, being celebratory, at the same time being part of causes that's directly connected to that community or village or city somehow. So for example, that could be an example of what that looks like. Say, go to Brazil, somewhere there, and I perform at a city, and I'm helping them in their city, maybe it's a school or an organization, leaving some sort of a legacy behind, not just like a one-time thing, leaving some sort of help. So maybe we stay there for like a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks and really causing some sort of a good in that town. And then we move on to the next city and you do some sort of work there. Maybe there's a festival, there's something to bring community together. Again, you cause some sort of a good that you can leave behind. And then you go around, then you maybe come back to that same city in Brazil. And so you create this relationship where every time you come to that area, you're doing something good, and you can come back and seeing it actually grow. And you're working with musicians of that town. So I was like, that's what I would want to do. Like, I would have a team that I travel around the world, cause a lot of good, share what I have, my abundance, with them in my own way.
Yeah.
So whatever that looks like, and have music be a big part of that. So when they came to me with this idea, it was more idea of a mindful TV show, and then we shared this idea, and I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I've kind of held. So I've understood the idea of impermanence in our lives, so it's a great idea right now, but I also know that it may not go through. I'm hoping, and I have a faith that it is a powerful process that we're going through, but these doors are, what I've seen is that, like, a lot of times it's not, I personally don't think it's like always good to get too tied into what the outcome looks like.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times the opportunity shows up and we go in through the opportunity and then it evolves and does its own thing because that's what it's going to do anyways.
Right.
So it's about being present with that, but showing up, doing everything you can, and then it may take a whole different route.
Right.
And then our intention and mission may shift too with that energy shifting. So it's like by walking the path, we may evolve in what we're looking for, and that will take us. So that's like going with the flow and showing up to what it is. So I'm holding the highest intention for this, and we will see what happens. It's pretty.
Nice.
But I'm just like so. It's like it's happening because it's synchronicity, but it's just like whoa, it's really happening.
You
So
pinch yourself.
it's amazing. Yeah. So one day I woke up and I'm like, oh my god, I'm producing a TV show. Like I don't what is that world all about? So
wow.
It's interesting and rewarding, and it's a lot of work at the same time. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. Like you're saying, you have this intention, and then it comes kind of in a sideways fashion. Like you said, you have this intention. I want to give my gifts to a community and give back to that community. That's my greatest goal. And I never thought of myself as a TV producer, but now here it is coming at you somehow, some way.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
That's happened to me a few times. It's like you have your mission and that's what you want to do, and then you find yourself taking roles that may seem glamorous, but that wasn't your intention to take that role. Like it was not my intention. Oh, I'm going to be a TV producer. That wasn't my intention. My intention was, like you said, I want to create these things and do good, and then like, okay, in order to do that, I have to produce this TV show.
Right.
Same thing happened to me with DJing. I wasn't like, oh, I want to become a DJ. I was like, I'd love to play music for mindful events that I want to create. I want to create mindful events. That was the intention.
Yeah.
And in that process, I realized I didn't really like a lot of the music and DJs that were out there. So I was like, why don't I just start DJing?
Nice.
Why don't I just learn how to do it? Then I can play what I want to play.
Yeah.
And that's so we fall oftentimes in these roles that may not be what our plans were, but the intention guides us to that path.
I think that's important. It seems like that's really putting the horse before the cart. Put your intention first, and then whatever comes after that may be unexpected. But I think a lot of times we do it backward. We say, "Oh, I want to be this, that, and the other," and then we get there and we're like, "Wait, this isn't what I wanted at all."
Mm-hmm. It's like a lot of times we want the fruits before like planting the seed.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes we may not know even what the fruit looks like. Well, I guess that's kind of. Yeah, we have to put the seeds and then the fruits come out from it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say if you look at the vegetable, we know what a banana is gonna be, but like in this example, it's kind of like we don't always know what our fruits are gonna look like.
Well, my dad's a farmer. He'll tell you don't always know.
Okay, good. All right. And now it works.
Yeah. 1 year it's this. It can change every year.
Absolutely.
So with Karma Warriors TV, so are you following? Like, is it a group of people? Are you a participant in that? How does that look?
I'm one of the. We're taking for this particular first season. We're taking 6 folks from us. A lot of people from Chicago, some from outside, but mainly from here. And there's 2 of us. They're kind of like a Karma Council, but at the same time, it's not like us and them. We're going to be with the warriors, as we're calling them. We're going to be with them going through we're more the caretakers, we're the hosts, we're holding the energy for the crowd, but we're not like negating ourselves outside of the transformation process. We're going to be vulnerable as well and open up to what our shadows are showing up to, because we all have things that we're working on. It doesn't matter who you are and what level of your personal awakening, we all have different things that we're currently working with, and so we're part of the process, and then we're holding the space as well.
And so, what does that look like? Are they practicing yoga? Are they doing juice fasting? Like, what kind of things are you putting these guys through?
We're developing a lot of the different things, but the main concepts are going to be around meditation, around yoga, mindful living. So that's where the food, health, but beyond that, it's going to be self-reflection, a lot of like personal inquiry around their inner lives and their current situations and what they're going through. And then something that I'm very adamant about in our transformation work is to, again, look at our relationships, ones that we're still carrying on our shoulders, that's weighing us down, and some of those relationships may not positively be affecting our subconscious behavior that is actually operating the full show, which is a lot more powerful than our conscious behavior. Meaning like on the outside. So it's a lot of the stuff that we can't see. It's the bottom of the iceberg, not just the tip. And there's equations with that, but we don't always know what's going to show up. So that's where the magic lies as well. And because it will be a reality-based TV show, we're not scripting it.
Yep.
We don't really know what's all going to show up, even for ourselves as hosts.
Yeah.
So there's a magic. We have a structure in the show, but there's some magic left to be seen. Which is great, exciting, and also we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But the essence of it is that one of the warriors will join us to the next season. So we may go to Nepal. We may go to Africa. So they'll come with us.
Okay.
And that's a process we're working on still, but that's the concept right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds like a spiritual survivor a little bit.
Exactly. It's like Anthony Bourdain meets Entourage meets Spiritual Survivor. There's all kinds of concepts going on there.
And so these must be very brave people. I mean, to put themselves through a situation that's going to challenge them, that they have to be vulnerable for, on film and in front of people. It sounds like it would be terrifying for some. It might be very exciting and intriguing for others. Are you looking for people to apply if they say
Not for this first season because it's like a pilot season.
Okay.
This is our first one we're doing. So, but we will. This is a whole it's kind of a movement in a way, and we're excited because we know there's a lot of people who want to share their stories. They have stories. Like we all have. I feel like most of us that are in this mindful scene, and a lot of our warriors. They're on the path, or they're just scratching at it, and some have been in it for a while.
Okay.
And it's not like all of them do yoga and meditate regularly. They've gone through transformation, or they're going through it. That's the main essence. So we're going to introduce some of these concepts of meditation. Maybe that'll help them.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll hate it. We don't know. Oh my God, 5 o'clock in the morning meditation. This is crazy. So we're excited to see how they respond to those situations as well. But yeah, definitely for future seasons, that's going to be a whole process. We want to open it up to the world, and we want to be mindful about it too. It's not like something where we want to have, maybe like a lot of the reality TVs that have 5 days of screening, so you want to be a million, so you want to sing and all these different shows.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure what that all looks like right now.
I mean, it sounds like an amazing idea, and it sounds like something a lot of people would be interested in. So, I mean, I can imagine you by supply and demand, having to vet people and find out, there's only so many spaces. But I really wish you a lot of success. And,
Thank you.
We could talk all day. It's
right.
been a real pleasure, and thank you for your time today.
Yeah.
So where can people find you if they want to find your music, Karma Warriors? Where can we find you?
The best way to stay in touch is my website is www.djtazrashid.com, just my stage name, and Karma Warriors.
DJ TazRashid.
Yes, and we can probably put it in
that
the link. Yeah,
Fantastic.
and Karma Warriors is karmawarriorstv.com.
Nice.
And I'm on all the social media stuff, and we can add those links, and we can throw in some free music as well for the group.
Great.
Put in the link. So.
Awesome. Well, that's very generous.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's great to share all this with everyone out there in the digital social media world and YouTube world, and hopefully people were able to connect in some way and take something back in their lives to empower their own path more in the process. So thank you.
Great. Namaste.
Namaste.